Hello, rectangles and pentagons, Miss Robertson here again. I hope you can see this okay. You should see my clock face here. This week we're going to be doing telling the time with 5-minute intervals. So 5-minute intervals just means that we can tell the time every 5 minutes that the hand goes around the clock. So I'm just going to show you a couple of tips for helping you with it, and then hopefully you should be able to crack on with the questions. So here we have an analog clock, which is obviously one of our clocks. I don't have the hands on it, but an analog clock is one that has numbers 1 to 12 around in a circle, and they're all evenly spaced out. Now, a digital clock is obviously when it's on a screen and it'll look differently, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But what's important to remember is that each of these jumps for the big hand, so the minute hand is the big hand, each jump is 5 minutes, but obviously it goes to all the little bits in between. So it's like 5, then 10, 15, all the way up to 60, because there's 60 minutes in an hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to label this so that we can remember which number means how many minutes pass. Because sometimes you might think, well, the hand's pointing at the 1. What does that mean? And it's just good to practice that. So in my blue pen, first of all, when it's up at the 12, we know that that is o'clock. Sorry for my writing, I'm having to squeeze it in. Then we go 15 minutes round because it's 5, 10, 15 to the 3, and that is quarter past. Then when we get down to the bottom at the 6, that is half past because we've gone halfway round the clock. Another 15 minutes, we get to the 9, and that is quarter to, because we have a quarter of the clock to get to the next hour. So that's us done our 4 main ones. Now we're going to look at what we think the red ones are going to be. So this is obviously our first one, so it's going to be 5 past. 5 more would be 10 past. See if you can guess before I get to it. Now quarter past, now that's the same as 15, which means the 4 must mean 20 past. Another 5, 25 past. Now this is where it gets a little bit trickier, because as soon as we pass the 6, we don't say past, we say to. So we would say 5 past, but if it was 5 minutes before the hour, you would say 5 to. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to working that out, but once you've got it, you'll be fine. So it's exactly the same numbers, the same way that quarter past changes to quarter to. So instead of 25 past, we're going to have 25 to. And that means there's 25 minutes to the hour, whether that's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever. So then this one has to be 22, 10 to, oh sorry, I wrote that in words, and 5 to. So what you could do is, to help you with your task, is you could draw something like this out, or you might have a clock in front of you that maybe has these already written on it. But that's a really good way to look at the different times and think about how a clock goes round. Now obviously a digital clock is differently, and a digital clock would obviously be like your phone or a Kindle or an iPad and things like that, maybe the TV, and it'll look different. So that always just shows you how many minutes past it is. So for example, if it was 10 past 7 on a digital clock, it would do 7 ... 10, because it's the hour is 7 and there's 10 minutes past it. But if it was 10 to 7, 10 minutes to 7, it would be 6, because obviously we're not at 7 yet, and it'd be 50, because 50 is what this would be if we counted in 5s. So we're just going to practice on an analog clock just now, because I understand it is quite confusing and tricky. And analog, I feel, is the one that we struggle the most with, because digital we see more. So have a shot at the questions. Hopefully this will help you. Remember that the big hand moves around the whole clock every hour, whereas the little hand, the hour hand, only goes around the clock twice, once for the morning and once for the night. So the bigger hand is moving past all the minutes. And you might have little marks on your clock, 4 little marks here to represent 1 minute past, 2 minute past, 3 minute past, 4 minute past. But we're not going to be doing it like that, because you would never really say, oh, it's 3 minutes past 12, unless you had to be very specific. So for example, when a baby is born, you would say, oh, they were born at 4 minutes past. But normally, if you ask me what time it is, I would round it to the nearest 5, multiple of 5. So hopefully that helped you. Sorry if it was a bit rambly. If you're still confused, please leave me a comment so that for next week I can give you some more instructions and things. But hope you're still working hard, as I'm sure you are, and enjoy the questions.